Today we're going to be doing oil pastel and we're going to be doing a landscape. And so we're going to be making birch trees with obviously colored leaves and then using some different oil pastel techniques and also using black paper so that we can have a really cool like reflection and then to be able to show depth. So we can see what's in the background and then what's in the foreground. So the first thing you're going to do is when you start off, when you go to draw this, I'm going to use a white color pencil just so I can see it on the paper. But I'm going to start off in the background and really lightly just make a line where the back would be. And then I'm going to start and figure out where I want the things in the foreground. So maybe, for example, I could have like a land mass right there. And then over on this side, I could have another land mass right here. Usually what I like to do is whatever is in the front, I like to draw first, just because everything else can go behind it. Otherwise, you have to try to draw over top of the other things, and it can be kind of tricky. So whenever you're drawing a tree, you start with the trunk. And the easiest way to do it is if you go up and you start adding Ys. So in the inside, it's going to keep going up, and then you keep making Ys. Now the nice part about this is because we're using oil pastel, the oil pastel is going to make these fatter and wider, and then we'll be able to add the rest of the details to the birch trees. The other one up front is going to be over here. And so we'll be able to add in our trees. Then what you're going to do is you're going to add in the background. So I'm probably going to want some birch trees in the background would be my guess. I can add in some things back here. They probably will be smaller than the things up front. Everything does not have to be birch trees. You can have different types of trees in here if you'd like. It just works really nicely with black paper if you do birch trees. And then I also like to make just a really light line to show like where the leaves would be on the tree. That way I don't cover over it by accident. So I'll be able to go through here and kind of fill these in. So now once my picture is completed, you should have a drawing that has trees in the background, trees in the foreground, and then this would be considered water. If you want to add things in, now would be the time to add, like, maybe I want some rocks, so like different size rocks. You could add in the water, maybe along the edge of the water, in the water perhaps. So you can add in some different details. You can have some different trees in the background. Maybe I want to have just like some greenery in the back. Maybe not all just birch trees, but greenery. So I can add in like where I'd want my trees to be in the background. And then if I want some more rocks. Now, if you don't have oil pastels, you can always use crayons or colored pencils. They will work as well. The only difference is when it comes to blending, it probably isn't going to blend quite the same, but it still should work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the white. So we're going to start with this tree over here. So I'm going to start off and I'm just going to color it in. Now the oil pastels have this like really oily texture to them, and so a lot of times it'll come off on your fingers. If you're ever using white or a light color and you notice other oil pastels on it, you can actually take and wipe it on your hand or on a paper towel and it'll get those other colors off. Otherwise it can transfer it to your drawing, which you might not want. So here we have my birch tree. Unfortunately, these oil pastels are kind of chunky and they don't have a real sharp point, so you kind of have to do the best you can trying to fill this in. You can incorporate, you can make the tree a little bit wider if you want. Maybe when you're drawing it, maybe you're like, maybe I want an extra branch. You can add in all kinds of different things that you'd like to. Okay, so once I have that taken care of, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding in the leaves. And so depending on what we're working on, so if I have green in the background, a lot of times I will save it and do the leaves first. And so if I'm going to do like a fall tree, I'm going to make it orange leaves. And one of the cool things about this particular project is you don't have to actually draw in a leaf to be able to make sure that it looks like a leaf. With oil pastels, I'm going to enlarge it here. You take and you can make almost like little, I don't know what you call them, like little blobs of color. And they can go over the white, and you can add in different variations. The idea, though, is when you are adding these in, some of your leaves, they do come over the tree and they come over the bark of the tree, so they're not just all around the edges. So they're going to keep filling in however you like to do it. So depending on how full you want the tree to be. Now they don't have to be fall trees either. I just picked fall just because there's a lot more fun colors that you can do. So I'm going to incorporate some things in here and add in maybe some more leaves. You can always go in and you can add in different things to it. So like if I wanted to add in more background, maybe I decided I want some more branches, I could do that. Now with this one, because you can kind of see through the orange there, we'll go over that again with some different colors and then you'll be able to shade it. Now one of the things with oil pastel that's always kind of fun is you can blend colors together because they're pretty bendable and blendable in here. So for example, if I have this, maybe I want to add another color in there, and I don't necessarily have to make it realistic either. Maybe I want to do some pink, so I could add in some pink. And all that does is it gives a little bit of variation to your color so that it makes it look a little bit more three-dimensional so it doesn't look so flat, okay? And so obviously there's not usually pink trees, but it could be incorporated into it just to add like a value or a shadow. The other things you can do is you can add black, and black would add a shadow too. So really lightly you could do spots, maybe the ones that are over the branches, and then it'll cover it in. Kind of like that. So if you look at it from a distance, I don't know if you can see it very well, but you'll start to see it starting to look like a tree. Now for the birch, what you can do is you take the oil pastels and you can make little like marks on it, like little hash marks around the edges, and that's going to make it look like a birch tree. Some people don't like to use the oil pastel just because it's so like big and bulky, and so if you want to use a colored pencil, you can. The only thing is with oil pastel, sometimes it doesn't blend very well or it'll smudge it, so you just want to keep that in mind. Now if we have this, now I'm thinking, okay, people are looking at this going, well, I can't really see it. So the idea is when you're using black paper, you want to make sure you fill in the rest of the space. So let's say I have the rest of my orange, maybe I'll do just a little bit more orange here. And then what I'm going to do is, let's say that the background is a green tree. So I'll have a green tree back there. So what I'm going to do is obviously I'm going to use more than one color, but I want to make it so that this will start to pop out. So in between, I'll have green back here, so there's a tree back here. So you can go in between all of those, and it'll make so that these start to come alive a little bit, so it doesn't look like it's just kind of lost in space. So if this is a tree in the distance, maybe I want to do a variation of color. Maybe I want some lighter green in there too, so I can start blending colors. Now the whole idea of this is it's not necessarily going to look realistic. It's going to be kind of like a spottier version. So I could have green here, and then as I start filling it in, I can add in, you know, different variations. So let's say I have a tree in the back. It goes up to about here, but then all of a sudden maybe I want the rest of that to be sky. So then what I could do is I could take and I can use a different texture. So instead of doing all the little dots, I could actually physically color it in so it looks like sky. Now same with the sky too, you're going to want to do more than one color. So even if I'm using blue, you want to use colors that are next to it on the color wheel. And then also too, make sure that the lines are going the same direction, because all of a sudden it's going to start bringing out your drawing and it'll actually start to look like something. The black paper, even though it's great, can be really tough sometimes because you can't see your other drawings around it. So it makes it a little bit tougher to see all your details. But as you go around it, if you can see, it starts to fill in and you can kind of see what we're drawing. Okay? Now, for water and things like that, you're probably going to want to change the direction of your coloring. So you can change it so you can go this way. If I was going to do a reflection of a tree, one of the neat things that you can do is you can take, so if I wanted to have the sun was behind it and I was going to have a reflection, I could take my white oil pastel and color through here and then, you know, kind of mimic my lines here. And then when you go over it really lightly, you still should be able to see, and it'll give you that little variation and it'll make it look like it's a shadow. So for the final copy, everything is going to be filled in. Nothing should be left just black. Even in the rocks, you'll notice I have spots of light. I even have spots where I have the leaves falling, different colors in the water, and then also the reflection of some of the leaves. So your project needs to show depth, which means showing the stuff that's in the back and then the stuff that's in the foreground, and then have all those extra things and completely filled in with oil pastel.